My name is Kelsey Thrower, and I'm doing this video for Miss Vaughn's Exceptional Child class. This is my article video. I'm going to talk about 5 of my articles. My first article is entitled Educating Children with Autism, Collaboration Between Parents, Teachers, and Medical Specialists. This article was probably one of the first articles I found when I was looking for articles in this class. It was originally posted in Brown University's Child and Adolescent Behavior Letter. It focuses strictly on the autism spectrum disorder, obviously. It talks about how important it is for everybody in the child's life to communicate, because there's so many ways you can help children with autism. It was written by Brittany Dunn, Sue Constable, Trish Martins, and Karen Comiso. It begins with a brief description about what it's like to have a child with autism. I assume one of the authors has a child with autism, or maybe all of them. It outlines the many challenges, everyday challenges that these parents face, and how important it is for everybody in their lives to come together regularly and discuss the best way to help this child. Because in the long run, that's going to be everybody's goal, is to help the child in the best way. This article, it was written by 4 women with very high degrees, and you can tell by the way it's written. It has a very high vocabulary and uses lots of words. It's really wordy, and it kind of makes it hard to read. But that being said, the information is so important, and they break it up well enough. I think it really helps get the point of the article out there. My next article is probably one of my favorite articles. It's called Identifying Minimal Hearing Loss and Managing Its Effect in Literacy and Learning. This article caught my attention right when I saw it, because I myself have a minimal hearing loss. And I've never really realized it, but talking to my parents after reading this article, it really would have helped knowing that my difficulty in learning to read and understanding what was read to me could have been an identification marker of my minimal hearing loss, because I didn't find it until I was in 4th grade. And I always had problems reading. This article starts with a quote that just absolutely wrenched my heart. It says, it's a quote from a 1st grader when he was asked, what's the hardest thing about learning to read? And his response was, I have trouble hearing my teacher. That was his number one thing he said about the hardest thing learning to read, and that just made my heart wrench a little bit. This article was written by Kristen Warfel and Allison Hendricks. It starts off with the quote, like I said, and then it goes to introduce the different types of hearing aids. You could have bilateral hearing aids, or just a unilateral. It states there's 6 different types, and it lays out how you can find and how you can identify these. The article lays out step by step how the best to help a student once it's identified. Constant reassurance that they're understanding you is one of the biggest ones. The authors do an amazing job writing this article. It was super easy to read, super easy to understand. Throughout the article, the author refers to many tables and graphs throughout that really shows. It starts out, the first one is the degree of hearing loss, and it shows the ranges of the amount of hearing levels you can hear, and then there's ways to identify it. It's just a great article, and all of the sections are easy to read. This article has so much helpful information, and it can potentially change the life in the way a child learns to read, and obviously that's the goal for everybody. My next article is called Fair Does Not Mean Equal, Creating an Inclusive Environment for Students with Disabilities. And going through all these schools, all these public schools, and going through my high school alone, just because they say something's fair for these students doesn't mean it's right. This article starts with by the author just straight out telling her side of the story, and it says that all students deserve to be treated fairly with the other students but treating them fair does not always mean treating the same. The article begins by referring to the poster we've all seen, with three children standing on the fence of the baseball game. All the children have one box, but only 2 children can see the game. In the bottom picture of the poster, the tallest child does not have a box, and the shortest boy has 2. But now they can all see the game. This introduction is perfect for this article because it explains that just because fair, they all have 3 boxes, doesn't mean they can all do the same thing. It goes on to explain the best way to benefit all these children, and the author provides what she calls pitfalls to avoid, and then finally the author provides a plan on how she believes the best way to help these students are. She does an amazing job at getting her point across. She starts from the beginning, just reassuring people how important this is, because this is a problem that people just virtually ignore. They say, well, they're all treated fairly. Not all children are the same. They all deserve different things. And also, one of the biggest things she points out is allowing these children on the regular roster. Because say it's a Valentine's party and you give out the parents your roster, but these 2 or 3 children with disabilities aren't on there, but they're in your class, people aren't going to bring enough for all these children. I've seen it happen, and it just hurts. The author does a great job at writing this article. It's very clear and easy to read, and the headings throughout the article make it very easy if you wanted to find something. Like the articles through this, or the headings through this, they begin with a way to benefit all, pitfalls to avoid, a measured approach, and she just does a great job at making sure everybody understands this part, or this thing that people don't understand. My next article is entitled Screen-Based Behavior in School-Age Children with Long-Term Illnesses. This article was probably one of my least favorite and most difficult ones to read. It was written by 6 different authors from Slovakia. Now, the information in this article is great, but it's so hard to read. It took me a while to get through and actually get the point of what these authors were trying to say. Once I really got into what they were trying to say, it became a lot clearer. This article is broken up into 7 different parts. It starts with the background, the methods they use, statistical analysis, results, decisions, and then finally a conclusion. The background, it says that they've ran a study about how to best help these students with long-term illnesses. Breaking the article up like this really helps the content flow together, and it helps the authors get their message across. The article is very informative and actually provides some very shocking information once you get into it. The only thing that makes the evidence inconclusive for the teachers in the U.S. is that it was written and the study was conducted in Slovakia. I don't know much about Slovakia, but I assume it's pretty different than the U.S., so their teaching abilities and their teaching ways are probably a lot different from ours. But even with that being said, it has some great information that should be read by everybody. My final article is entitled One of the Kids, Parents' Perceptions of the Development Advantages Arising from Inclusion in Mainstream Early Childhood Education. It's a very long title, and it's a very long article and very tiny typed article. But once I got into it, it got so much better. This one focuses more on the parents and how they should deal with their children with the developmental disabilities. The article is based around the experiment conducted in 15 families whose children had been attending the mainstream education and just have fallen through the cracks. Each family was asked what they believed was the most beneficial for their child, and each family actually answered a different way. There were 4 main findings. First, the students were being able to seek social attractions. The parents felt that their children's needs were best met in mainstream education. They believed that their child attendance was supported by these mainstream schools. And finally, the parents believed that this was the most positive environment. But after these children attended a different school for a semester, just in a semester, their worlds were changed, and it shocked the parents, I think, more than it did anybody. It's a very interesting study to read about, and it has lots of great information. But it is long, and it's kind of hard to read. But I think it's worth it. I think, especially parents with these developmental disabled children, need to understand that there are more options than just the mainstream schools. And thank you. That's all I have.